Greet you all, students of MA Final. We continue the discussion on the poem Goodbye Party for Miss Pushpa T.S. Uh, we have already discussed the importance of theme, be it satire on the kind of affectation among so called semi educated people, or say the kind of craze for the foreign, or the use of typical Indianized English in typical kind of people. I mean, it is not, say, it is a must to do away the misconception. It is not generalization. It is actually applicable to the particular kind of people, semi educated. So it must be clear to you that now the other part that I would like to force two important points today I would like to discuss. First, Nissim Askell, he poetizes the ordinary situations and ordinary people, ordinary creatures, and even, ordinary human relationships. And it is this purpose that makes his poems peculiar and unique in the whole range of Indian English poetry. So this must be clear to you. Now, other aspect that I would like to highlight today, and since dear students, you must have query about the use of English language. In the last part, we discussed in much detail about the mistakes, about the blunder that the speaker has committed in this valedictory address. Now we discuss the kind of mistake, the excessive use of say present continuous tense, or say the error in the use of certain phrases like family member. This is wrong use of English language. It's a member of family, and such kind of use, and then not correct use of words also. And in effective expression, repetition must be avoided. Say all the time saying, and these, she could have used different words, effective words like ever, express, and the kind of the words in which she could have used valedictory. And I mean, this a valediction, or she could have used the words like say uh, generosity, benevolence, that we discussed. I mean, the language, the focus on the language. Now you must have query about the syntax also, and from this point of view, students, I think it is a must to focus on the language. Now what is the reason that excessive use of present continuous tense must be avoided? And I mentioned this point, that especially it now when I discuss the point that there should be no confusion. It is now here, it does not mean that you should not use say present continuous tense. This is not the point here. Now, what is the purpose of the poet? And when at this level, when you are studying the poem like this, goodbye party for, and when we have the pivotal point on the theme as well as the language, the use of language. This is exactly the purpose of poet. Now you must know the use of present continuous tense first, okay, and then we will switch over to other important points which are necessary to discuss. Now the use of present, if you are if you are sitting in front of me and I ask you this question, I mean, this is even at primary level, students concept must be clear about the tenses, because the use of present continuous tense first of all for the action which is going on at the present time. When you are sitting in front of me, it is at present you are sitting. Or you are concentrating on the lecture like this, so, and it is also used for temporary action. For instance, he is writing a book, something like this, or she's participating in some literary context. But students, my purpose here is, see, to focus on the point that avoid the use of present continuous in formal speech particularly. So this must be clear to you. In the formal speech, when you are going to address audience, okay. Now, what is the reason? Again, you must have some questions regarding the use of tenses. Therefore, when we study this poem, so this is the pious task of the poet, so that you delve deep in the use of language, in the, say, poetic diction and syntax and the structure and linguistic part of the. Now, what is the reason? When, in the beginning of this lecture, I mentioned the point that you have last year, on the basis of my experience, last year some students, they were so inquisitive about that. You see the use of language, and what is the reason that we must avoid present continuous tense, and rather, which tense is popular in particular context? Simple present tense. So here, students, focus on this point. Okay, first, remember that these are important rules, and these rules which are beneficial to you. What are these rules? Just have a look. Here, first of all, we have some, say, correct and effective use and language, English language, use of English. Yeah, here we have some stative verbs. So the purpose here, that your concept should be clear. And I think if you study this poem like Goodbye Party for Miss Pushpa, and we would not discuss this, I think this will not be the proper way. So the best way of studying at this level, MA level, you must have, when I talked this point, I discussed this point, I talked to you in the last term, that you are going to become ME, you will this label. So you must have mastery over the language. For this purpose, now stative verbs of, say, if we have perception first of all. Now, what kind of these verbs in this perception? Say, voluntary action, particular use of voluntary. For instance, see, feel, and taste. Now, from particularly these kinds of words, we do not make use of present continuous tense. See, if you say, I am hearing, I am smelling, this is wrong use. So at least you should know what kind of words they are called. Stative verbs of perception and involuntary action. Is that clear, students? And use of simple present tense instead of present continuous. So these are some, remember the important rules for this effective expression. So first and foremost point is that we have stative verbs of, yes, perception. So it's and here these are certain examples: taste and feel and see. All these are it. Then second important point, we have stative verbs of emotions, and we generally do not make use of present continuous. And this is what remember, this is what in this poem Goodbye Party for, she has committed this mistake particularly. Okay, when she says I am remembering and seeing and all the time meeting, even with meeting one can use, but the way, at the time, the context is also very important. What was the context? And you can avoid the use of I'm understanding. So these are blunder. Therefore, it is a must to know your mastery when you talk about the mastery over the language. So here we have certain verbs of emotions. Is that clear, students? These are, for instance, like, want, desire, and hope and believe. You would not use, I mean, it looks very odd when you say I'm wanting and I desire. No, this is preference. I prefer this. This is so the use of simple present tense. I prefer to focus on the point. What I'm hitting is again absolutely incorrect. Okay, so these are certain verbs of emotions, so you at least you should have idea about it. Then we have stative verb of, yes, reflecting some mental state also. This is third kind of mental states. For instance, as we discussed it earlier, remember, understand, consider, and recollect. With that also you avoid the use of it. So it must be clear to you. Okay, observe and find. So under which category? At this level, MA level, you should know under which category we have this. So we have stative verb of reflecting mental state. And what kind of, if somebody puts up this question, so you should be able to answer it. And even when you make use of it, at that time, the use must be correct as well as effective also. Then we have, verbs of appearance. In appearance, we sound it sounds that we would meet soon. So sound, and it seems, for instance, look, and with appear and resemble. It appears that she would attend the meeting. So such kind of expressions in which that. Then another point is that in verb of processes and, yes, here in which we have some kind of indicating some quality and all that, indicating quality. What are these words? For instance, quality, deserve. Now you would never use that she is deserving like this. I mean, she deserves in that. And then you have in the contain and contain, it contains 4 chapter, for instance, and this first unit, it contains or it consists of 5 parts like this. These are common uses, but at least you should know that under which category. That's why the purpose of this. So in which category? Processes and quality, and in which context, especially the matter, it matters, and like this. Simple present tense. So what is the rule here? Yes, the rule is that you would not make use of present continuous tense, particularly here in such stative verbs. Then you have stative verb of possession also. Possess, own, and belong. Now here in this speaker, she again commits mistake when she says that she is coming from. So instead of coming, she could have used which word? She belongs to Surat, or she hails from. Okay, so correct use of preposition also. So we have these words, and this mistake she has committed. So this is, I think, very important for you to know. And you see, when you appear in competitive exams, from that point of view also it is very important. Common errors. So what are common errors? See, you just have a look at these common errors. For instance, incorrect use here, and this is the correct use. Okay, for instance, I am really believing this is the incorrect use. So in examination, from the point of view of competitive exams, you have incorrect. So what is incorrect here? For instance, in the sentence, I am loving, or some I am really believing, these are incorrect uses. It is the tea is tasting. No, what is the correct? So focus on the correct use. And what is the correct use here? Yes, we understand, and she belongs to, do you hear, he is. These are the, so I mean, it is here necessary for you to focus on the point of language, the correct use of syntax. Okay, fine. Is that clear, students? And now the point that I discussed. Yes, in some there are some exceptional cases also. For instance, situations. Here I would like to here mention these some exceptional situations also when we talk about from the point of view of competitive exams, mind you, students. Exceptional situations in which the present continuous tense can be used. Now, what are these? Special for the some actions being taken place at the time of speaking, as we discussed earlier this point. Now, in the particularly in the language of judiciary, medical science, or say giving reminders, at that time you can make use of present continuous tense. For instance, particularly if you now in day-to-day life, or say sometime in public speaking or some simple expression, you would not say I am hearing. This is wrong use. But especially when use of judiciary here, when we talk about the language of judiciary, at that time judge is hearing the special case. Okay, yes, at that time you can make use of present continuous tense. Is that clear, students? The point. Then medical science also in the language. For instance, the expert doctor is feeling the pulse of the patient. So otherwise, in expressions in say language, when you in the be it written mode or spoken mode, you would not say I am feeling. This is absolutely wrong use of it. But so far as judiciary, medical science, and particularly in this context, there are some exceptional situations. So I think it must be clear to you your concepts. Now seeing words, if you say earlier, I discussed this point when we discussed the incorrect use and correct use. Do you remember the point? At that time, see here, just have a look, students. Here, see, this is an incorrect here, seeing and believing and hearing. So this is, but correct is present, simple present tense, indefinite tense. So now the point, my point is that she's seeing her lawyer for the specific purpose. So judiciary language, it is correct. At that time you can make use of it. So the point must be clear. And now, is she forgetting her manners? Otherwise we do not make use of word forget, stative verb. Okay, in the earlier as we discussed. So particularly giving reminders, you can make use of it. And then she is tasting the cake so as to find whether it is tasty or not. So see, in some these exceptional situations, you can make use of present continuous tense. Otherwise, which tense you are supposed to use? Simple present tense. So here the idea underlying is that whenever you make expression, it should be absolutely correct and effective. Now when we talk about Nazism Askill's purpose here, obviously to highlight the theme, as we discussed earlier, theme of say affectation or some kind of satirizing the way people they are organizing such programs and in the farewell speech, which is not properly organized, and see the kind of craze for the westernized people and this mental slavery, whatever. I mean, we discuss in much detail. But the another point is that students, since it is prescribed at ME level, so there is a specific purpose of that. Okay, so from that point of view, I think student, it must be clear to you. Now here, when we in the last turn we discussed about the art of oratory. So students, here we have some important points from that point of view also. Now effective and impressive speech in say, hopefully, I trust in future you may get opportunity to address the audience. At that time you must remember these important points. Effective and impressive speech. So this is called rhetoric and art of oratory, as we discussed earlier bit. This is in much detail now, at particularly at your level. First of all, when you address the audience, what is the first and foremost point? In the last an art of oratory, we discussed the proper introduction and see the greetings, exchange the greetings, and proper say mark of address. These are certain important. But here another point that must be focus, that I would like to cover today. So, well, organization and arrangement of thought is very, very important, because when you studied this poem, now if I put up this question, why it marks the failure? Dear students, what was the reason? Because the reason is there is no logical connection among the points. She hails from, though incorrect use of you when make of use of that language, when she said that oh, she's coming from again, this is absolutely incorrect. She hails from, she could have said, okay, we discussed that point, but my point here is that logical connection among the ideas as well. So first of all, the occasion, then the she could have described the person, and about say the area of interest and the place and her credential also. Such points could have been covered very specifically, point wise. There should be no any haphazard kind of depiction. And so that's why, from that point of view, you must have proper planning of that. So from the point of view of say competitive exams, these are important points. Then you speak with various ideas which must be organized properly, okay, arranged and organized properly. Now selection of words and ideas, that is also very important. Sentences and ideas and words, because she has not used the important words like express all the time, say, it adversely affect the way of expression. So she could have used other words, important words like ever. These are certain words, tell. And now when we talk about, see, do not speak too much. Is there any point, or is it necessary to focus on the points which are irrelevant and not necessary? No, not at all. See, to the point, precise. So precision is very important, not to speak more than what is necessary. And sometimes say correct use of expression also, effective. Now the sentence, what is needed is effective, but what is needful is not effective. Needful word, it's not that much acceptable in English language. What is needed? So there are certain kind of sentences as phrases, and then you have to, when you speak at the time, there is some kind of pauses. You modulate with the idea. If it is really very important, you can say something emphatically. You must lay emphasis. So high pitch and low pitch, that is the intonation. So that is nature of expression. It depends on you. If you say something very forcefully, vehemently, so your pitch should be high at that time. Or sometimes you can say something very with pauses. So punctuation in written mode, but pauses in spoken mode. So really that is intonation. It is really very important for your effective expression. And when you speak, it should be natural outcome expression. It's not as if you learn by rote, or it is something just crammed the matter with static tone, and you just prepare and you start reproducing it over there. Then what happened actually? Audience, or see the people, they start talking to each other. And you must have noticed, see, if expression is effective, or there is pin drop silence, people are spellbound by it. Okay, so spellbinding effect because of the, yes, arrangement, organization of thought, very precision of expression, no digression, and the proper tone with high pitch and low pitch, and then graceful, impressive body language also. Your eye contact everywhere. It's not that you are staring at one place. I mean, these are points that we touched, but now, today I just elaborate the point when we talk about body language. Hand movement is also balanced. It's not as if you are, as if some, hand movements in dance, as if some dance activity. So you should avoid it with very graceful kind of your, when you have proper, see the your hand movement and neck movement, all this, this must be very impressive and graceful. So here this is, now when we talk about repetition also, now in this particularly, this poem that prescribed in your syllabus, this poem, Goodbye Party, in that poem, repetition also you should avoid. Now there are certain examples of repetition. Repetition of ideas and thoughts, it must be avoided. And now here, for instance, example, repeatedly, she saying words several times, and it looks very odd. She could have used the word pours out. For instance, pours out your feeling, avers, points out, depicts, describes. You know, these are, so many words, expresses. We have, treasure of words. So that's why, word power is very important for you. And from the point of view of competitive exams, you try to improve your vocabulary. And from your examination point of view at MA level, so you can use so many words. And here, in this poem, see, she lacks the knowledge of words. This, it is clear, and no haphazard expression. Now here we have example. Now what is the example? Through examples, you can very well understand. Sometimes, she says Pushpa Miss, and sometimes other times she says Miss Pushpa. And so respectable and honorable address is a must. Person like ma'am, she can also make use of it. So when you speak publicly, these are very, very pertinent, important point. And then as we talked about the consistency and even your answer in examination, these are important answers in examination, point of view from examination. In your answer also, consistency, coherence, point wise, well organized, and there should be no digression, as we discussed this point earlier also. For instance, now through example, illustration, example, when she appreciates, see, this is Miss Pushpa, and she describes her traits. She starts very in funny manner. It's very ridiculous that she starts telling about herself. Now there is no purpose of making fun of anybody, no, not at all. We must not make fun of anybody or no ridiculing any. But the idea underlying is that if some person who starts saying in very haphazard manner without proper planning, so naturally the people, they are compelled to laugh and to make fun of her. Otherwise there is no any purpose of that. This is not the purpose at all, but this is quite natural. So in order to avoid it, so she starts telling about herself, her uncle, and so this is the digression. So in public speaking, there should be no digression. You should avoid it, digression or deviation. And she started saying about uncle and old friend. See the extreme extent of this digression. Not only about uncle, but uncle's old friend's wife. So humorous effect in Nizam Eskil's this poem also. And the purpose is to, yes, focus the art of oratory, public speaking, effective expression for especially the students, and I mean it is meant for all the people in general as well. So speak, so you should speak which is necessary, so don't forget this point, and then now we have important points. So she could have spoken more about her personality, Miss Pushpa's personality, her achievements, area of interest. So many points are there. And the correct phrases, for instance, now here I would like to here mention, instead of family members, okay, this point, do you remember this point? Yeah. And what is the correct use here? Members of family. We would not say this is English department, it is Department of English, okay. So these are certain uses. Then superfluous use of, for instance, long time ago. Time is absolutely superfluous. There's no need of using word time here. Long ago that was sufficient. And anybody, see here the use of anybody was absolutely wrong. She could have used others. Okay, so your concepts regarding the use of words and phrases must be absolutely clear, and not to speak which is not necessary. This is the point. And these are certain phrases also. Now we come to the point in when we talk about art of oratory. See here we have, when you address the audience, there must be some proper conclusion of the point, okay. So this is, I think, very very important. As the introduction is important, likewise this conclusion is also very important. And the last point is, it is and when we talk about this poem, Goodbye Party, now here the speaker, she does not conclude this properly. And you must have noticed she has mingled in very haphazard manner 2 points together. See, who is the center of attraction and attention here? Obviously Miss Pushpa. So at that time she could have invited her, especially giving special attention. So the last point is not mentioned properly, okay. So now this is the idea that other speakers, and she mingled this in very very awkward manner, important address, very absurdly merged in very awkward manner. I see the sentence in the poem, I ask what speakers speak and other, and afterwards, so I take, so now see the effective